Welcome to Building UIL Champions Podcast, brought to you by Pocket Coach Academy. I'm your host, Cody Morris. In this podcast, we look to help coaches, coordinators, and administrators build UIL championship programs. All right, and welcome to episode 9 of the Building UIL Champions podcast, brought to you by Pocket Coach Academy. I'm here in Austin, Texas, in the Zlotnick Ballroom at the AT&T Conference Center. And if you know anything about UIL Academics, the man sitting next to me needs no introduction, but I'll give him a slight one. Dr. David Stevens, he's been the head of UIL Academics for 13 years, and he's been involved in UIL for a lot longer than that. Coming from the theater realm, in one act play, then director of fine arts, and then moving over here to the head office in Austin, and he's been the head of UIL Academics since 2012. So, Dr. Stevens, thank you for taking the time out of your day to talk to me and to give the coaches some insight into the world of UIL.
Happy to be here.
Yeah. Well, we'll jump right into it. I know you're a busy guy. You've got some reservations at 5:30. I heard you talking about earlier, so we got to get you out of here. But so let's talk about, we're up here at the AT&T Conference Center for Capital Conference starting tomorrow and going through Friday. Let's talk about training and give me some insight on kind of what the UIL office, how they view CapCon and the Student Activities Conference and kind of what your goal and motivation or approaches to training and opportunities for coaches and students.
Sure. Capital Conference is our big summer conference. We gear it specifically for teachers, coordinators, coaches, that sort of thing. Really just to try to get everybody caught up, to train, from anything from hosting a meet to brand new coaches to those veteran coaches who just need a little extra pep or something to get them excited and motivated for the new year, as well as updates on changes and things we're adapting or making adjustments to.
Yeah.
So Capital Conference is a 2-day conference. We have a full day, 2 full days of 45-minute sessions. Our goal with Capital Conference is to provide training to all these coaches and coordinators from some of the best that we have available in the state, as well as all of our contest directors and our consultants. All those people who are writing those tests and a big part of creations of what we do. And then I really think the most important part about a conference, because you can sit down and read a book or watch a video and get all that.
Right.
The best thing about coming to a conference is that networking ability and
Yes.
that just face-to-face time and being in a room with somebody and realizing, oh, that person's just 20 minutes from me, and formulating that friendship and mentorship and hopefully getting everybody on the same page, because I really think you're only as strong as your weakest link. And if we can, everybody can help support everybody in academics, it's only going to be stronger and better.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's what happens in our summer event.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, I remember coming to my first Capital Conference, 10 plus years ago, and kind of being surprised at how community based it was. You kind of assume like other coaches, their competition. I was young and competitive, and so you come in there with a little bit more of a close. Yeah, I mean, I'm still very competitive. I'm just not as young as I used to be. But that was kind of one of the things that was, I won't say shocking, but eye-opening, of like getting to see and meet so many people and how welcoming and forthcoming they were with help and sharing. And so, yes, like I definitely would say for anyone that hasn't made it to CapCon, especially if you're in the first, 5 years of UIL coaching and, there's so much to learn. I mean, especially if certain events, if you're in any of the speech or debate events or, I mean, really, I say anything. Spelling's got new words every year, even if the competition's pretty straightforward. It's still a deep well of what you need to know. So some of the best tips and tricks I got was from people I met at either, activities conference, student conferences, or people who knew people who said, "Oh, I got a friend that lives up there near you."
Right.
But yeah. Well, so what about student activities conference? Like, I have to be honest. I never really took my students to that in the beginning, and I kind of look back and feel like I missed an opportunity. So, like, what would you say to a new coach that's kind of trying to weigh the options of allocating? I guess that was my
Sure.
always like thought was I'll have to give a weekend to that versus going to a competition. I'd rather go to a competition.
Yeah.
So what would you kind of say to that approach? Because I, didn't utilize that resource.
So every fall we do 4 student activities conferences. We travel around to 4 different areas of the state. We try to rotate around where we go, whether it's East Texas, North Texas, West Texas, or far West Texas, or deep South Texas, or Southeast Texas. So we don't make it to every corner of the state. Of course, Texas is not square, so
it's true.
It's hard to get to all corners of it. But we do what we can to try to rotate around, so at least we get somewhere every 2 or 3 years, at least, and within a 2 to 3 hour drive of where we hope to be of everybody. That is a 1-day Saturday conference. We usually start at 9. Some of our West Texas conferences will start at 10 to give people more time to travel, since those guys are really coming 4 and 5 hours on a bus on a Saturday morning. Yeah. So we'll do that, get them going, and that's a full day of just Saturday workshops that we really gear to the students. We do those in the fall to try to motivate those students and get them excited about the event, to let people sort of show up and say, what are these kids really interested in, what they want to do? So that is really, it's a motivational training, just a really great way to get your team started, as well as inform the coaches and coordinators about things they may want to know about that year. And sometimes it's not always easy to come to Austin in the summer. So that's a way to get some training for some coaches as well.
Yeah.
So that's really the best part of it. They are free.
That's what I was about to ask. Do they cost anything?
Cost not a thing. You just got to get the kids there.
Yeah.
We ask people to sign up just so we have a registration list of who's coming, so we can communicate if we need to. But there's no pre-registration required or anything like that. We just like people to show up. We typically try to do them on college campuses or somewhere in some areas that you'd want to hopefully expose your kids to or get them out to. So it's just a good team building effort as well. So hopefully maybe getting all those kids out for the whole academic team is going to be important and motivating for your team overall than just maybe taking your debate kids to a debate tournament that weekend or whatever it might be. So.
Right. Yeah, that was, I think that's a good point of just incorporating and viewing it not only as training, but that's a real good kind of easy Saturday for everyone to team build, take everyone out to a nice dinner or something, look at it as an opportunity to, build the team together early in the year, because most of these are pretty early in the fall semester, correct?
Yeah,
September, October?
We try to get them done in September and wrap up by the first weekend of November before Congress gets started. So that's usually our goal. Mainly September, October, first weekend of November. We have to dance around October because of so many band festivals, marching band festivals that happen.
Yeah.
In Bandtober, as we like to call it.
Yes. Yes. I hear, as soon as I already have people messaging me about Region 8 Congress, the regional meet with the overlap on the band schedules and what it is. And, it's really good. Pick your poison. But
exactly.
Well, so kind of piggybacking off that, you have like training in person, but what are some vital resources or things that you would encourage coaches to kind of go read, look at, utilize on their own?
There's really, I always tell people there's 3 main things you really want to know when you're working on UIL stuff. The website is the number one thing. There's just an unlimited amount of resources there that you can look up, see. We try to keep everything there. Sometimes there's too much information on the website, so that's the hard part. We also have all of our handbooks and manuals posted there. It's been a while now, but we revamped all of the handbooks so that and made them for coaches, competitors, and contest directors. We wanted everybody to have all of the same information in the same in the same location. We worked really hard to keep those at a small number of pages, like 10, 15 pages at the most. Some of them have grown, have a lot of extra stuff in them, especially in some of our speech and debate areas. But for the most part, we wanted people to have the information and make sure that they got everything they would need to know. We have the information they're supposed to read before a contest begins. So if you have a competitor or a brand new coach that'll read that handbook for that event, you should pretty much know everything you're going to need to get through the contest portion of that.
Absolutely.
And then, of course, study materials are another one of those things that I think is very important for people to have. UIL provides all of our previous year's tests and answer keys as what we provide as study materials. Those are all a free download now. You used to have to pay for those, but last year was our first year to make those available for free, which I'm very excited that we were able to do. And we had a lot of great positive response. And some of those, like number sense, accounting, all those tests, they're great, vital study materials. And we have, I think, all the way back to 2012 posted on our website now. Social studies, current issues events, some of those lit crit that have a current novel or a topic that they're studying, those may not be as helpful for study. But what's the most important thing to do is you get those tests and look at the format of that test.
Right.
And if you look at enough of them, you'll realize that there's a pattern that's created there and that those coaches, those test writers are using. And you'll get a great idea, and you're going to need to know on social studies, you're a lot more likely going to have some sort of map or some sort of image or some sort of graphic. Absolutely. At some point you're going to need to do. So that's what's going to be beneficial by getting those tests off the website as well. And then we have a lot of other, on our website, additional study resource materials, which coaches can go on and look at and purchase those things. And we don't advocate or promote any of those specifically from our office. But I always tell people, like, what should I use? I'll go talk to the people that are successful, find out what they're doing.
Right, yeah.
And we were talking about helping out. I always tell people, anybody who's really good and has gotten there because they've worked hard, they will give anything and everything to you. Right. They will tell you every secret that you think they have. And because those people are great and they're good and they're going to be helpful.
Yeah.
People who won't share or think that you might get better than them if they share your information, I always say they don't have any tricks. They don't know what to share with you. And that's why they're not sharing with you.
Right.
So.
Yeah, well, the people that are willing to share and found success more than likely had someone share with them, and that knowledge
Absolutely.
And expertise was passed, whether it was from their own coach or from, fellow, regional coach nearby. Yeah, no, that's absolutely, that's a whole leadership
Sure.
stuff of, closed mindset or open mind.
Well, and you'll see pockets of really competitive high scorers in certain events or really competitive areas of the state. And I really think that happens because there's someone who's really good there and everybody else is working harder to try to catch up and stay with them. And I think that's part of the advantage of educational competition in any educational event. You're going to work harder to try to be the best. So
absolutely. I mean, I'm sure it happens a lot, but I know there's been multiple instances where you knew that you were going to have to be state final ready.
Sure.
And district finals because, you've got multiple schools in that one little district that any one of those kids could win state in that event that year. And so you might have a fourth place district student that could have made state finals in a speech event or something, but, you got to be. And so, they drive. That's what, always credit to being able to find success was you had to be good enough to be competitive at the state level just to compete at the district level. When I was, over in Northeast Texas with, Lee and Hallsville and Pine Tree, those Sulphur Springs, a lot of good, strong UIL programs were in my district when I was a new coach. So I would definitely encourage, and I think you're saying that don't shy away.
Taught you how hard you had to work.
Right. Well, I mean, that's good, right? Where's their secret? They're probably just doing a lot more. They're practicing and they're putting a lot of work into. So moving on from that or building off of that, we're talking about competing and, the pockets of people kind of helping that region build and get stronger just because they're raising the floor. How does UIL, especially coming from the UIL office, like how do you view invitational meets and what kind of role / advice would you give coaches on how to utilize UIL invitationals?
I think invitational meets are the most underrated thing that happens. We have a number of schools who will show up at a district meet for the first time, and it's the first time that kid's sat in a room, an actual test room, and taken that number sense test or done that competition thing. I do a little quiz with all of every time I do a coordinator presentation, I say, how many district track meets does your school go to? And it never fails. I say, oh, like 10, 8, 7. And I go, no, your school goes to one district track meet, just like you go to one district academic meet.
Right.
All of those other things, those are invitational track meets.
Right.
Because there's no way that track coach is ever going to put a kid in a mile relay or a 400-meter dash in front of a crowd for the first time at the district contest, because the kid's not going to be able to perform well. And your kid's not going to do the same number sense, radio routing, whatever it is that you're competing in, if that's the first time they've ever been in that high-pressured situation. Right. So invitational meets are important. And I know a lot of kids are busy, and especially if you're in a school where you got kids showing pigs and running track and playing basketball and doing everything under the sun.
Yeah.
That's not even UIL related.
Yeah, right.
They don't have a Saturday to give up. But that's when I really challenge coordinators and coaches to get really clever and figure out how do we create our own invitational meet on a Tuesday night or a Tuesday afternoon, or what the teacher work day we have, or whatever it is. It might be one of those days you get in the spring or whatever, so that you can get your kids in that competitive thing. Even if you can get the neighboring school, or if you can just take your kids to the junior high at a different setting than what they're used to, and have a different teacher give the test to them. Anything you can do to try to simulate that test-taking environment is going to be productive and beneficial. But the invitational meets, that actual setting is really great. It's a great way for you to encourage your kids, to get them motivated. When they keep coming in 4th or 5th in your whole team, that's going to motivate them to possibly go and work harder so they can get one of the top spots, or whatever it is that you're going to do. We have a lot of people who have just lots of kids who are interested, and that's a great way to narrow it down to who's your 3 or 6 kids you're going to enter in each event by how they perform so far on that whole year in their invitational meets or practice test or whatever they're doing. So
yeah, and I mean, in that credit to going back to like the track meet, I was even thinking about, you're talking about test taking, like no standardized test teacher that has a tested subject is going to sit those kids down for the star without having done some benchmarks or practice tests. It's like we don't copy and paste the successful practices from other, or the approach. And so
true.
I'll also say that one of the big, from my angle of PCA, is one of the big constraints a lot of times is funding. And one of the biggest, easiest, I don't know about easiest, but it's more simple than chasing down 1,000 chocolate bars. Okay, sure. I will say that, or some pretzel sticks. But running or hosting, like you said, an invitational meet with either it's set A or set B, or third party material is what we call it. So you buy, there's a lot of opportunity to make a good chunk of money for your program, so that then you can travel to more invitational meets, or do something fun. So to me, that's always been the backbone of my program, is being able to host a meet at some point to just get that big fundraising opportunity, and then you get to build those relationships, and kids get an opportunity to take tests where you don't have to pay to travel. Right.
We have a webpage on UIL website that's invitational meets, that we list every invitational meet that anyone tells us about that submits it. We also sell invitational meet materials, 2 separate sets. They're less than $200. They're around $200, I think,
for everything.
Everything.
Yeah, which
everything
is a lot cheaper than
everything but spelling. Yeah. And you can't buy them for study materials. You have to host a meet, but we don't say you have to have 20 schools that come. Everybody, because we were built in the covered wagon days, if there's a town or a community every 20 or 30 miles, because that's about how far the wagon could travel in a day. And so you can get people from around your area to do it. I even encourage you to get your district the strongest people in your district to come to an invitational meet.
Yeah.
And practice with those kids and work with those people and network, because it's only going to make your kids stronger and better.
Well, and I'll say this, that that was something else I kind of learned and found that I've seen, at least in my region, that a lot of times the district is very supportive of each other. And so, if Mount Pleasant is hosting a invitational meet, a lot of times the schools in our district would come to that and use that opportunity. And a lot of times we wouldn't necessarily compete. We might have a kid or two that couldn't travel a couple of times, compete, but we would host. And then you would kind of pay that favor back and pass the money around in a sense, but support, the district there. And then also, you're getting a little bit better benchmark on what you need to compete against when it comes time for district. But
certainly.
So district happened, we're talking about district. Okay. So give me some insight. And I think that one of the big, I don't want to say pain points. It's not negative. District has always run well, but can you give some insight into what goes through the process in UIL of scheduling the windows and all the things that you have to navigate that we probably don't see or know about?
The biggest challenge we do every year.
Yeah.
As you know, everybody wants to do everything in spring. If you look at the calendar, nothing happens in September. A couple of football games, and that's about it.
And those don't count.
December's pretty dead. There's a few things that happen. So we jokingly say every time a new event gets proposed or gets talked about, I was like, can we do it? Can we do it in the fall?
Right.
Because the spring is just overloaded. We start backwards with the calendar. So baseball and softball have to happen at some point. Track is the big thing in the spring that we work around with in academic events. And track has to fall because they host it at the UT track meet wherever they can get that in. UT just changed their graduation dates, and so that messed up the calendar. And for the first time in like over 50 years, the track meet wasn't held the second Saturday of May.
Oh, wow.
So now, if you don't know this, early on, we call it the spring meet. You've heard spring meet maybe used. We're kind of losing the term now, but it truly was a spring meet. It was the track and field events, academic contests, all these things sort of all happened in one setting. And they were like little county contests and stuff around. Your whole county would compete. And they used to do a giant spring meet overall champion. And they would take all of the spring activity points and earn them together. Yeah.
That's cool.
It sort of fell apart as we've grown and we get 6 conferences going and things. People don't do all those activities. But it's very exciting, interesting how that came out. So back to the calendar is track lands where it has to go. So then we start trying to plug in things. Where is state academic meet? Well, where's region track fall? So we try to fit the academic meet, regional meet between region track and state track. Because there's that one weekend that it goes. So that's where that goes. Well, then you work backwards to...
So you really only have one weekend that region can be.
Pretty much.
Gotcha.
And then you work backwards and keep going. So then you try to find out, we got to have Area 1 Act play. And before we get there, and then you got to deal with by District 1 Act play and all those sort of things. And so where does that district academic meet fall in relation to when is the district tennis meet, when are golf contests, when is the district track meet and area track meet, which is very impactful to those 1A to 4A schools, especially because you're going to have kids that are doing those things.
Yeah.
And if not kids, your staff is going to be pulled and
vehicles and travel and
transportation, as you all know, is one of the biggest cruxes you have. So typically that district week will fall into that last week in March, and it is a 1-week window that you can do those events with a confidential materials. We allow speech to be held a second week typically, which also conflicts with Area 1 Act play usually. That is to try to accommodate those judges. And I know there's a lot of people that say, well, we wish we could do writing events and we need that extra meet. Well, we also, if you'll look, that area track meet, which is always a big conflict, is usually that same week that second week of speech is an Area 1 Act play. So that's why we condense the district academic contest where those confidential materials into a 1-week window, not only because there was problems with writing 2 separate tests and test confidentiality, and people in the second week had an advantage because they could get the first week's test, even though they were a different test.
More practice materials, right?
And really, and that was a big movement of that, but more than anything, it was because the calendar, more things. I mean, there's 1 and 2A schools now that are doing baseball and softball when that used to not happen 10 or 20 years ago. So there's just a lot more activities. Kids are spread much more thin. So if we can condense our windows to those specific times, and don't forget, we also have band and orchestra and choir, concert, and sight reading that's going on all through those March and April days. So that's part of that. So that's been a big issue, is make sure you know when that district week window is, so that you're working within those 6 days. You can hold that district contest to plan that. But that's how kind of it all backs up from there. And then we don't start that until after state basketball is finished. So there you go.
Yeah. And
CX debate can't happen until spring break. So
does academics get pulled into that other arenas at all for like assistance or spotting, or do y'all kind of like work to help each other?
We try to at times, but usually, especially during the spring, everybody is running.
Nobody's ever at the
directions.
office. Like everybody's just
my first few years, I tried to work the track meet, and they'd always put me on the award stand, and all I did was sit there and watch kids puke into a trash can. So I was like, I do something else.
Yeah, you're like, I don't know that I'm needed here. Yeah, I wouldn't make it. That would get my stomach.
You're right. No.
But okay, so that's interesting. So like, I'll kind of go to another big pain point. I think that a lot of coaches, this is a big conversation in the tab rooms, especially on region weekend.
Great.
Is like, well, I mean, and it's usually positive trying to find a solution for the squeeze and brainstorm. And of course, we have half information in our arena. So like, is there any conversations or acknowledgement or a thought, or, is it really more of a perceived problem than a legitimate problem, that on like the region weekend of where, you've got all 6 conferences, all 4 regions the same day across the state, especially speech and debate, I think, is where it really gets, squeezed on the judging and getting qualified good judges to judge there. So like, what can we do? Is there anything we could do, or should we just let it go?
And it's the biggest problem. But there's no one's adding an extra week or month in our calendar.
Yeah, we just create more days.
You talk about, so what if we did? I mean, we had this great idea 10 years ago or so. We were going to split all of the academic events, and we were going to have a STEM season, a speech season, a literary season sort of idea, so that those kids could still do things. And it was, in theory, it was great. And the idea was wonderful, but we would need to start contests in September.
Yeah.
For some event, and nobody wants to do that.
No, there's no runway to get ready. Yeah.
So that was the biggest hiccup in all that. Even when we split the state speech and academic meet for a while, when we were trying to do academics in that first weekend in May and get that back to that, and speech was going later, that was great because it didn't pull those kids a lot. But we heard from a lot of school districts about the financial resources of how, we just went there. So we heard it again this year when we had the 1, 2, 3, 1 act play one week, and then we had the academic meet the next week. We had schools that were turning around 3 days later and bringing kids 6 hours back on a bus.
And it's all the same kids because, the talented ones,
they're also working through golf. They're going to golf or tennis in between. And it's just, it's a big drain. And you'll have students who, they're never attending class in the month of May, basically.
But that's how they prefer it, though. That's why they do everything, because they don't want to go to economics.
But, right. So anyway, it's the calendar is the problem. And sites that will host, it's a challenge to get 24 neutral, non-biased sort of sites to host those academic meets. Because as you know, we're not always the most friendly, excited people to show up on a college campus or wherever they may be that's hosting. And we're not always the most gracious clients that show up. So we've had sites that have said we're just not going to do it anymore because it's too hard and too much of a battle. And you have a lot of college campuses that it's just a big liability to have 1,000 high school students on your campus.
Right.
Safety, security, everything else under the sun. So it's to get to do what we do right now, we're very thankful for, and we want to keep trying to make it better and do things and allow more things to happen. But at what point do you say we're only going to host 1 through 3A on this weekend and 4, 5, 6A on this other weekend, and they're going to have 2 separate tests and contest events or whatever it's going to be? So that's that's all of those logistics that you start getting into when you try to split those things up or divide things up from more than what we currently have.
That was, one of the only thought or solution that ever came to my head was regions kind of stacking and helping each other. It's like if we ran our 3A region at the same location as you ran your 4,
Sure.
and then our coaches and your coaches could all pass back and forth. But finding, like you said, the location is hard enough for a small group.
Yeah,
and then you go from 1,000 to 2,000 kids, and
we have 3 sites, I believe, that host 2 conferences for now. That host 2 conferences, and the idea is that one conference helps the other conference run their meet. It's great. The problem is it gets really big, so there's not a lot of spaces that can hold us. And then you also you really need all those rooms on a Friday. And unless you're at a large university, that's going to be really hard to do 2 conferences in half a day, at Friday evening and all day Saturday. So, and we have a couple of sites. We have 2 sites that I know of. They cancel their smaller colleges, but they cancel all their classes on Friday just to host our academic events. So
that's awesome. It's awesome.
It's helpful. So.
Yeah, I mean we've hosted. There's a small community college right next to outside Mount Pleasant, and they're always real eager to get kids on their campus and try and get awareness. They're a little bit more rural, but it's just funny how some colleges, they're like we're turning thousands of kids away a year, and other colleges are like, we need to fill our rooms and fill our classes and get kids aware and see our facilities, and so so really, if you could find the site and you can look, secure the rooms, you have no problem with those conferences helping each other.
No, it's great. I love it when we can go in and actually run our own events and run our meets, or we find a retired teacher who's a school district employee administrator who's willing to be the meet director. Sometimes those are super successful, and because you're getting to do it. My overall brilliant idea that I would love to happen is for those colleges and universities to open up their campuses, have those professors and people there to just welcome, look at our beautiful facilities, and then we all show up and run those events and take care of all the business, so that it's not that dean or whoever is running it who's having to disqualify the kid for whatever is going to happen or whatever. They shouldn't be doing that. So
that would be amazing.
Yeah. We just need their facilities mostly.
Yeah, just if we could just use UT, have the whole run of the campus for a weekend.
That's right.
Like
they just give it all to us.
Off-right cancel. UT could cancel
and
classes.
The parking lots. We need the parking lots.
That's true. All of them. I never realized how tight parking was until I had to try and go and do the journalism and branch out into the other stuff. And you're like, well, there's nowhere to park.
We have employees on this campus, and it's not uncommon for many college campuses. They walk a half a mile from their parking spot to their office.
I believe it.
So,
that's feels like when we park at Brazos to go to UTC, it feels like it's about half a mile, especially when it's 100 degrees outside. You're in a suit. Yeah. So, okay. So let's talk some current events real quick. Like, we saw the Legislative Council approve in concept to basically discuss, right? So in concept, just in theory, they say this, we think this is a good idea. And then in October, they're going to kind of nail out the details, I guess, or, of increasing the entries from 4 to 6 in some certain events. Can you kind of provide any little clarity or anything that you can for what that is and what you're trying to solve for?
If you haven't figured out, we're doing all we can to try to figure out how do we increase participation in our events. I think that's important. It's the big push we did 2 or 3 years ago to get 6 students entered in those team events, which we had done in science forever. Why had we not done it at other events?
Yeah.
So we had some issues with that. There's still some things we're ironing out of how do you really have to break all those ties amongst those team members to know which 4 team members can you advance. Because that's our biggest deal, those region sites, we can't handle a room that we're going to advance more than four students on a team. So that's the biggest deal. So it's we're trying to do our best to just how do we get more kids involved, because I think that idea is many times you may have those kids who aren't the top 3 or 4, they're 5th or 6th. Mm-hmm. Well, if you don't use them your freshman or sophomore year, they're going to go off and find something else that somebody who will use them or they feel useful for. If I'm from the theater world, as you mentioned, if you can just get that kid on stage once and get them hooked, they're never going to leave.
Right.
So if you can just get that kid in that test room and let them take that test or try it, they're going to get hooked and want to keep doing it. So that was the old idea and sort of movement behind that idea. And it was just easy to do and at that district local level and not impact a lot of what we're doing beyond that. So now we're going to try what we presented to our council in October, was to increase the number of entries in all speech and debate events, speaking events, to 4.
All speech and debate events, or all speaking events?
Speaking events, speech, debate, everything. LD,
Okay.
we would have
CX,
everything.
Wow. Okay.
So you'd be able to enter 4 teams.
So I mean,
at the district
you can if it's a district smaller already. So
right.
That's just kind of standardizing.
We're just trying to standardize it across the board.
Gotcha.
Not only to get more students involved, but just to increase participation and interest and keep it going.
Yeah.
As we're all well aware, the not having a speech requirement in schools, it's impacted a lot of our participation in not only at UIL events, but all speaking and forensic events. So whatever we can do to try to get more kids involved or give them the exposure, that's the goal. So it was approved by our Academic Standing Committee of the Legislative Council in concept in October.
Are you on that committee?
We present to the committee.
Okay.
The Legislative Council is 36 superintendents from across the state, from all different conferences.
Okay.
And 8 of them are on our Academic Standing Committee. So what they approve in our Academic Committee then goes to the full council for
awesome. I had no idea. Yeah, that's neat.
So we will again bring it back in October. Yeah, the October meeting, because we just had a June meeting. I keep saying October. June meeting, we did the concept, approved in concept. October, we'll bring back all the language of it. If it passes the academic committee, they will send it to the legislative committee the next day. And if the legislative council committee passes it, then it will go to the Commissioner of Education for approval. And if it gets approved by the Commissioner of Education, it would go into effect in August of 26.
So now the Commissioner of Education, that's not part of UIL, or is it?
The Commissioner of Education has final approval of all of our rules and changes.
Okay. Because see, that's always been, I don't want to say, unclear, but just kind of curious of how it flows. So those changes then come back over to the Commissioner of Education, which is housed not under the UIL Department of UT, but
correct,
over at the
TEA.
state TEA.
Yeah.
Okay, so there is some connection and oversight through that.
Correct.
It's not just adjacent. There is some linear passage. Okay, interesting. Yeah, that whole process is just so. I'm sure it's convoluted too. I imagine there's a lot of.
I'm pretty sure the commissioner won't care if we have 4 or 3 students in speech and debate, but
I guess I just meant like you got to get it in concept, and then this.
Yeah,
one,
it's not approved.
Go here,
that's why a lot of people get very excited if something passes. They start chattering about it on social media. It's passed, whatever. Well, it's not done yet.
It's got one of the 6 boxes checked, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. See, a lot of, and the ignorance is just, even for
any
myself.
kind of rule change or amendment or new event, any of that, it takes a minimum of about 2 years to get through the process, which is a long time now in our world. But it's also really good because it gives it a lot of chance to let people know that it's happening, get feedback.
Right.
Really polish it out and make sure it's right before we put it in front of the schools.
Absolutely. Well, and I was thinking of how many times when you talk about getting more kids to participate and that young kid might go and leave, how many times we have that 4th that's really not much different than the 2nd or the 3rd, or you might have 4, and you have to make those tough calls and then how many times are we pulling the alternate because someone drops at the last minute? They wouldn't have competed, and they go and win district, and then they qualify for state, and they weren't even going to be one of your 3 at district. So I've seen that happen all the time. Even the alternate for region comes in and gets pulled up, and next thing you know, they win a state medal, or
and we've tried it out. Like last year, I believe last year was the first year we allowed 5 entries in Congress to happen. So doing whatever we can to get kids exposed and let your programs grow and build and just make it an important part of what's going on.
Okay, so through the year, what are some resources or things that coaches can use to stay up on the current events or like what's going on in UIL? Is there any recommendations you might have?
Make sure you, if you're a coordinator, you register as a coordinator on our website first of the year. We ask you to list all the coaches that you know over that you have. That automatically puts you on an email distribution list, I guess we'll call it.
Yeah.
And we try to create an academic newsletter. It's not monthly, it's not regularly. We try not to spam you with just stuff, because if you get an email from us, we hope that you go, oh, this must be important.
Yeah, what's happening?
It's not another ad from something you didn't sign up for.
Yeah.
That you get.
If I get an email from UIL, I usually feel like I forgot to fill out a form or do something.
Well,
I'm in trouble.
That's what we hope. Not that you're in trouble.
Right.
We hope that it's important. When
that's my anxiety. I just think that I'm in trouble automatically.
You probably are, Cody.
Yeah, I am. Yeah. Jana's called me more than once. Okay, so if you've had a call from Jana, you're not alone. I forget.
It's great. So that's the newsletter is our biggest form of communication that we can get out. We really try to ramp that up in the spring. We'll do stuff in the fall to talk about student activities, conferences. But if you're not getting our newsletter regularly, just drop us an email. We'll make sure you get on the list and then get you on there. We also, it's not ran by us. It's ran by coaches, coordinators. I'm not even sure who's in charge of the page anymore. But there's an academic coordinators Facebook page.
Yeah.
That is great. I love it because people just throw out things like, what do you do? What are your requirements for letter jackets? Or people put up invitational meets, or they'll ask certain questions. And it's really
job postings. I see a lot of people right now putting openings for different roles.
So UIL Academic Coordinators on Facebook, if you do that. I think you were the one who created the Academic Coaches Facebook page.
Kind of in that vein of that coordinators page was active, but there wasn't a lot of moderation, like the people that had opened it, weren't really involved anymore. I didn't know who they were, and so I was just like, let's get some fresh, current people that are really heavily involved, and then that can be kind of a coaches versus coordinators type of
perfect. Yeah, and it's important. I mean, social media is great. It's not. I mean, I'm a little almost. I'm in the Facebook decade of social media, and it's not the most effective form of communication now, but all of those pages are started by someone else. Those are not ran or operated or overseen by anybody at UIL. Now, I troll it a lot just because I want to know what people are thinking or saying or doing or whatever. I don't do it much in the spring because I don't like when people talk bad about me. But
well, I mean, I don't see them. I see the normal complaints.
It's all good. Yeah,
the district window. They didn't think about my student that does one act and track.
It's good to stay abreast. I try to not stay on it too much because it can just be over consuming as any of us.
It's all your fault.
Media.
It's all going to be your fault.
I'm fine. If I can fix it, I'm going to do it. But for the most time, if there's something going on, I couldn't fix it. But it's all good. So
I do not see her. Honestly, I can't remember a time I actually saw like a negative direct.
We're probably more self-conscious about it than people really mean to be, but because it's just like anything you do. There's nobody's trying to do a bad job, and no one's trying to mess up somebody's chances or what else. It's just things you got to be fair, firm, and consistent, and that's not always the popular choice. So
and you can't always read the tone. You're gonna read it in the tone that you perceived it, and they might be writing it in their tone. Yeah,
it's all good.
I've made that mistake. As you get younger, you hot about something and you make a post and you're not really trying to do it, and then it runs and gets interpreted, and you're like, oh, what?
See, when you used to have to sit down at the typewriter or write that whole thing out, by the time you got finished doing all that, you were done with it before you could lick an envelope and stick it in the mail. But now it's just way too easy.
Yeah, you write the email
from your phone.
Delete it. Yeah, then you delete it. You don't send the email. I'm sure that you get emails too, but we won't ask you about those.
Oh yeah, I got a file.
Yeah.
But then so those are the main things that to stay that are just kind of current things. And then you can also, like, we've gotten really good, and if you haven't noticed, Facebook, Instagram, and X for just UIL overall, they've gotten really good about adding a lot of stuff about academics on it. And I encourage all of our academic friends to go in and sign up for those and get those notifications. And when you see those, click like, because there is a internal competition going on in the office about who gets the most likes or comments. Athletics obviously does. But we do post some things about academics, and we'll end up getting 3 likes. And it's so disappointing. And the media is like, should we have posted this? Because no one even commented on it. So
Well, I'm commenting on everyone.
Click like, comment, make sure
Dr.
you know
Stevens
that
is the best.
No, you don't need to say that at all. They just need to know that people are watching it and it's important to them, and because it is. And when it's not there, I mean, you get lots of Roy McKenzie will make sure and let you know that they got no publicity about it.
Yes. Well, and I will say,
pick on Roy.
I wanted to, yeah, well, of course, yeah. We always pick on Roy. I did want to say that something that UIL did this year was, I don't know if they've done in the past or I just became aware, but when they took pictures at Congress State and State, they put the drive link so we could go and look at not just the ones that they actually put on Facebook, but all of the ones they took. And so that was really cool. I was able to take them off there and send them to parents, and we have like some professional pictures of their kids. And I mean, that was worth, you probably could have sold those and made a lot of money, but that was a really valuable
A company used to do that, and then we kind of went without a photographer. Now we do have a photographer, but they're not taking them to sell or give or provide to the public. They're truly taking them for archival and social media purposes only. So we didn't get to put the drive up this year of all of those photos because of all sorts of legal reasons and everything else. And so last year when we did it, we did try to do a little thing where we could monitor who had access to those photos. So we don't get to do that exactly, but I do love it when we do have a lot of social media posts and we get that and people can pull them off. And so
I can tell you that whether they're liking or commenting after the state meet or during the state meet, they won. The kids especially are going to the Instagram, they're going to the Facebook, and they're looking to see if they got posted.
Awesome.
They saw the camera go.
Hopefully they are.
Camera person come in there and they're like, oh, that's like, there's a side of my face. I mean, I can't tell you how many times kids have been searching and be like, he was in my room. I debated that.
There guy. You go.
So
I love it. Yes. So yes, very important.
Well, I will make sure we'll share it, post it, like it, and I'll create about 400 bots.
Okay.
To just like
that'll work.
Post. Yeah.
If we can just beat athletics on one event, it'll be great. I'm just kidding.
Hey, that's fine. We can beat.
There's just not always
water polo. Does that get approved?
Yeah.
We have water polo.
We have water polo. And see how many likes they get.
Yeah, right. We can beat water polo.
Surely.
Right? Yeah. I guess to kind of wrap this up. I know we've taken a lot of your time here, but can you give us like some kind of preview into what maybe UIL is planning like for the future? Are there any improvements or additions coming up? You talked about like the printers, increasing participation. Is there anything maybe that we haven't kind of been made aware that we're looking at, or new events or anything?
I really depend on coaches and coordinators and all those people out there, students, to really tell us what you need and what's going on. The world is changing so fast now, we can't even keep up with it. Technology is just amazing, and with AI having evolved the last 2 years as much as it has, it's going faster than we'll ever keep up with it. I don't want our contest to fall behind, but we also can't get ahead and be in front of what every single school, all 1,700 member schools, are able to do. And that's varied in our, as I said, unsquare state that we live in. My personal goal before I ever leave UIL is I hope that we can go to a contest and not have to bring personal printers, that we can upload those writing papers to a cloud or some secure area, something where we can do that. Because I know that's one of the biggest stress things we have is trying to bring a printer to contest.
Well, it adds cost for the programs too.
Sure. But the problem is we have 192 district sites, and not all of those can provide Wi-Fi or have a cloud access. Not every kid has a computer or a laptop or a device. Some still want to handwrite. So we just, every time we try to get a little further, we have a little hiccup to that. I would love at some point to get some of our just standardized, where we're just multiple choice tests. How can we do that where those are electronic, that we're not doing paper and pencil tests? Some things we need to do that, but I know there's a lot of invitational meets that do spelling completely on the computer now.
Oh, really?
So how can we incorporate that and make sure every kid has a computer and access to the internet or whatever it takes to make that run? So we're getting there. We're getting closer. Whenever we looked into trying to make all of our tests electronic or get there, it was in the millions of dollars that it was going to cost to try to do that. So I've talked to some of our contest directors like, how could we maybe get Lit Crit, social studies, and current issues and events into that realm? So we don't do every event, but let's start in to see what happens and trial some of those out. So those are big goals, lofty goals that I would love to be able to do. One of the things I don't want to remove, however, is the coming together and having a contest in person. We tried that during the pandemic. We were able to get through that, but it just is not the same experience that you get with that. So, and I'm hoping we're not forced into that because of finances or whatever else is down the road in our future. But those are some just really big ideas that I would love to do that are on the forefront. We're always talking about how do we keep these kids who have never colored with a Crayola and a coloring book ever in their life. All they've done is have an iPad that they've colored on. In 5 to 10 years, are they still going to be interested in showing up on a Saturday and taking a 30-minute test somewhere? So that's what we got to always stay aware of, and hope for the best. And hopefully all these coaches and coordinators realize that they're getting some of the best kids. They get to work with the very best kids when they're working on these events, and working with those kids after school and in the extracurricular programs. That's what motivated me as a teacher and kept me wanting to teach and kept me involved, because those are the jewels of the whole school program that you get to deal with and work with every day. So, and I think that's probably one of the best things about UIL Academics is providing those opportunities, not only for the teachers, but the opportunities you're giving those kids.
Yeah. I mean, that's, I talk about this on a lot of the content that we make and with PCA, but the opportunity and the growth that UIL gave me as a person, I mean, it changed my life in the sense of, I was just a new teacher, kind of, 24, not lost, but, still kind of floating around trying to figure out what I want to do. And I said, I'll go be a teacher. I got married and I thought I'd be a teacher because the schedule was better and, so I could have a family and I was managing restaurants before. So that schedule was awful. So, teaching 185 or, that contract looked amazing when I was working at 185 a quarter, it felt like, but being able to get an opportunity to coach something, and then find success in that and, build my confidence and build my, professional resume, if you will. And, now I've debate state championships and a mass certification. So I know I have job security across the whole state where I'm at. But I think that a lot of people don't realize how impactful it is for the coach. Everybody thinks about the students, but these UIL coaches, if you get involved and you find success, I mean, it can change your life just like it changes those kids' life when they find success. And so,
and it's even just getting to do it. I love UIL. I grew up in a very small school in West Texas, and UIL was my life. My family had a feedlot. I hated working in the feedlot, so I quickly learned as long as I was busy trying to do something at school, I didn't have to go home and work in the feedlot.
There you go.
So I would sign up and do everything and anything I possibly could so I wouldn't have to go home and work. So I just grew up in UIL, and it provided scholarships whenever I went to college. It was the whole reason I wanted to be a teacher, because I had great teachers and I wanted to provide those same opportunities that I had. So I love it when I see, I'm so excited about tomorrow starting Capital Conference and just seeing all of those coaches and teachers who are just there to make a difference in kids' lives. And hopefully those kids and the UIL stuff can help make a difference in those coaches' lives as well.
Absolutely. And, at PCA, we're aligned with that mission. And that's, part of the reason of why I started the company was to support UIL. I went and got an MBA, so I needed to put that to use. So I invested that, money and time. And then, I loved my time in UIL. And so I was like, all right, how can I,
it's great.
Work on something I enjoy while still trying to feed my 4 sons, that are they're only eting more each day, by the way. Yeah. And food's not getting any cheaper. But, so I wanted to ask you, and, to kind of make it official, an announcement. We just worked out all the details and put pen to paper for PCA to become an official sponsor of UIL Academics. And so, could you kind of share the details of that and, what coaches might be able to expect and what that means for UIL?
Sure. We're excited to have PCA come on as a corporate sponsor, and we really thank you for all you're doing. I think for UIL overall, it's, I think, the ability for what you're going to do now and kind of helping UIL even promote to new coaches and veteran coaches, and some of the ideas that you worked out with during that whole negotiation process of what you can do as a corporate sponsor is going to be truly beneficial for a lot of schools and programs to get them off the ground. So really appreciate you coming on board and doing that. We're looking forward to having PCA as a sponsor of UIL.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited, and it's almost kind of nostalgic in the fact I looked at my wife the other day and I just kind of told her, I was like, if you told me 2 years ago that PCA would be now an official sponsor, and so we're just gracious, I guess even just humbled in the fact that we would even have that opportunity to be associated with something as amazing and massive and historical. And I mean, UIL started in what year?
1910.
1910. So we're 115
as a debate
years,
league.
As a debate league, right? So right where where I started, and so we're super excited. And so yeah, we're going to try and provide and create some free resources that we can kind of boost and solidify that UIL site to really make it as easy for new coaches. And we talked about earlier about increasing participation, and I meant to say this then, but from my perspective, a lot of times not having that coach is the biggest inhibitor to not having the kids in the event. When schools don't register kids for events, it's not because they don't have the kids, it's because they don't have the coach. And so we're going to, hopefully we can kind of align mission there and get more coaches active, get more coaches confident, working and practicing. And so we're excited, and so we're signed up for the next 3 years. So over the next 3 years, we're going to just try and provide as much value and help build the participation and performance of UIL. So I'm excited, and hopefully it's something that's still going on when you retire, or I retire, whichever happens first, right? So, but well, Dr. Stevens, I appreciate you taking your time out of your afternoon, and I know that all the coaches are going to really enjoy getting to kind of hear your insight and conversation. And so, that was episode 9 of the Building Champions podcast. If you're not going to be in Austin for CapCon, this will post after the event, but you definitely want to try and make it to one of the student activities conferences in October, September. Make it as a team building opportunity. Make sure you go check out the website, read the manual and the rule books. It really can save you a lot of headache, and it can prevent you from kind of catching some, what would we call that? Some bad luck, if you will, of not having the rules enforced correctly or not knowing the options you have. And so read the manual, read the rule books, check out the resources. There's a ton of free stuff on there, practice tests. UIL does everything they can to promote their own activity. And so utilize those. And then if that's not enough, then you can come over to PCA. And we also are working to try and support and for supplemental instruction and things that we can do with our staff to provide courses and more practice materials and really take it from learning the event to building a program. And so if you haven't checked out our stuff, go to the website, pocketcoachacademy.com, and you can check out what we have available. We have a ton of stuff available for free. And then you can also book a call with me and find out how we can help you this upcoming school year, build your team, build your program, and make the job a lot less stressful. So until then, we'll catch you next episode. I'm Cody Morris, and this is Dr. Stevens. Thank y'all.